Hey there, Drowsy Historian here. Tonight, you're not a soldier. You're not a pilot, a politician, or a name that will be carved into any monument. You're just a person living in the wrong place at the exact wrong time. You've survived the war so far. You've rationed, evacuated, whispered your prayers. You've done everything right, but none of it matters. Because in the next few minutes, the sky's going to open, the sun is going to fall, and everything you thought made sense will vanish in a light too bright to see. This episode contains graphic and emotionally intense depictions of historical trauma, including the aftermath of nuclear warfare. It may not be suitable for all listeners. Before the flash comes and your shadow becomes the only part of you that lasts, do me a quiet favour. Leave a comment telling me where you're listening from and what time it is. It's always fascinating to see who's tuning in from around the world. And if you'd like early access to these slow descents into history, ad-free audio of the episodes, or just want to support the show, you'll find the Patreon link in the description. But for now, lie back. Try not to think too hard about what's coming. Let's begin. You wake before the sun has fully risen. The air is already heavy, clinging to your skin with the damp weight of late summer. Outside, the cicadas buzz in rhythmic waves, droning like they've never known silence. It's a familiar sound, one that marks the season more precisely than any calendar. You lie still for a moment, listening to the creak of floorboards above you, the distant shuffle of slippers on tatami, the soft clink of ceramic bowls being set out for breakfast. The ceiling is the same as always. So is the smell of dust and heat and miso from the kitchen. Nothing is different. Not yet. When you rise, your muscles ache, not from labour, not exactly, but from the accumulation of small exhaustions. Sleepless nights, poor meals, that persistent worry you don't talk about anymore. You dress quickly in your worn summer clothes and pad barefoot down the hall. In the kitchen, your mother has already prepared breakfast. A small bowl of rice, miso soup that tastes more like water than broth, and pickled radish sliced too thin to satisfy. You grumble a little, as you always do, about the ration tickets. She says nothing. There's nothing to say. She pushes the rice closer and pours tea that's been reused twice. You eat anyway. The radio sputters in the corner, fighting for clarity through static and heat. A man's voice mutters something about troop movements. Another announces a recent air raid in a different city. You half listen. It's been months since you reacted to this sort of news. Too many headlines, too many losses that didn't reach you directly. You've learned to let them slide past like steam through a cracked window. Still, someone says the Americans are negotiating. Someone else swears they heard from a cousin in Tokyo that surrender is being discussed. Your uncle says it's just propaganda. He's probably right. But the idea plants itself in your mind anyway, small, half-formed, and not quite hopeful. Outside, the neighbourhood is already waking up. You step onto the veranda and feel the wood warm under your feet. The old woman across the street is sweeping dust off her porch with a straw broom. Children run barefoot between buildings, their laughter rising above the cicadas. A bicycle rattles past, its rider balancing a small crate of eggs with impossible care. Somewhere a dog barks and is quickly hushed. There is life here, tired, rationed, frayed around the edges, but life nonetheless. The war has pressed itself into every corner of your world, but it has not yet taken this from you. You take a sip of your tea. It is weak, but it is enough. You've memorized the routine by now. After breakfast, while the sun is still low and the shade stretches long across the yard, you check on the small garden that barely yields enough to matter. The beans are wilting again. Not enough water, not enough of anything. Still, you tend to them carefully. It's a ritual more than anything, a gesture of normalcy in a world that keeps shifting underneath your feet. Your neighbour calls over the fence, asking if your father's been called back in. You shake your head. He hasn't. You don't add that he wouldn't be much help if he had. He can barely walk without that old cane now. She nods and says something about the heat. You agree. It's always the heat. By 7:30, the heat is already clinging to everything. You wipe sweat from your brow with the sleeve of your shirt and glance at the sun, rising higher than it has any right to this early in the day. You consider walking to the station to check on train times, or maybe to deliver a message for your uncle. But the air feels thick enough to chew, and you decide there's no hurry. The errands can wait. Everything feels like it can wait. You linger on the veranda, watching the neighbourhood begin its slow spin into another day. The girl next door ties her hair up with a ribbon too faded to show its colour. A boy runs past with a paper fan, already flushed from play. Somewhere behind you, the radio crackles with static and fragments of song. You can't make out the words, but the melody is old, something your grandmother used to hum when she thought no one could hear. Inside, your mother hums the same tune while folding yesterday's laundry. Your father clears his throat and reads the same newspaper article for the third time. You reach for your tea and take a final sip. Still warm, still weak, but enough. It happens at 8:15 a.m, though you don't know that at the time. There's no warning, no sirens, no countdown. Just a sudden, blinding light that erupts through the sky. Like the sun has fallen out of place. For a split second, you can't comprehend it. Your eyes register only white, so complete, so consuming, that it doesn't feel like light at all. It feels like erasure, like the world you were standing in a moment ago has been wiped clean, replaced by something too bright to exist. There is no sound, not at first. No roar of engines, no thunderous explosion, like in the movies. Just silence, thick and absolute. Then without transition, the force hits. You don't hear the bomb, you feel it. An invisible hand slamming into your chest, your back, your everything. With the strength of a god losing patience. It picks you up without effort and throws you against the wall behind you. Or maybe it was the floor, or the air itself folding in on you like paper. For a long moment, you don't know where your body ends or begins. The wind is sucked from your lungs so violently that it leaves you gasping like a fish dropped on a dock. But the air you manage to pull in is no comfort. It is hot, sharp, thick with dust and something worse. Ash, maybe, or plaster, or powdered glass. It coats your throat, sears your nostrils, settles behind your eyes. You cough instinctively, but it only drives the particles deeper. You try to breathe again, and this time you taste blood. Your ears start to ring. Not a sharp, piercing sound, but a low, bone-deep hum that vibrates through your skull and makes it impossible to think. You hear a scream nearby, high-pitched, human, unmistakable. Then another, and another, until it becomes a chorus. Somewhere in that mess you realise you're screaming too. Not words, not questions, just noise pouring out of you because something inside has shattered and doesn't know how else to make itself known. When you open your eyes, the world looks wrong. Everything is sideways or burning or missing. The houses across the street are gone. Not collapsed, not broken, gone as if someone scooped them off the earth with a giant hand. What's left smoulders. Walls that should be solid have crumbled like paper left in the rain. You don't know where the people who lived there went. You don't see bodies, just shapes and shadows and smoke. You try to stand. Your knees buckle beneath you, and your palms scrape against debris so hot it tears the skin from your hands. You pull them back with a noise you barely register as your own. There's glass in your forearm, a long, thin sliver sticking out like a misplaced bone. You stare at it for a while, then look away. Your brain files the pain somewhere distant. It has more urgent problems to deal with. Heat presses in from every direction, radiating off the ground, the walls, even the sky. The sun is still visible, but it looks pale now, as if embarrassed to compete with what just happened. The clouds are gone, replaced by something else, a towering column rising from the city centre, dark and churning and impossible. It grows as you watch, climbing higher than seems possible, blooming outward like a flower made of soot and silence. You stumble forward, half crawling, trying to make sense of your surroundings. A woman stumbles past you. Her hair is gone. Her clothes are gone. Her skin hangs from her arms like wet paper. She doesn't cry. She doesn't speak. She just walks, eyes wide, mouth open, leaking blood from somewhere you can't see. Behind her, a man sits on the ground, clutching something in his lap. It takes you a moment to understand. It's a child, or was. Nothing feels real. You try to piece together what could have done this, but nothing fits. Not a bomb, not like the ones you've read about. Not fire, not an earthquake. This is something else entirely, something beyond explanation. You don't know the word for atomic. You won't know it for days. Even then, it won't mean what it should. It will sound clinical, distant, like a scientific term scratched onto a blackboard. But there is nothing distant about this. It is close. It is inside you. It is already changing you. Every breath is a decision. The air is poison, but you need it. Your mouth is dry. Your lips are cracked. You think you might be bleeding from your ears, but there's too much dust to be sure. You press your hands to your face and feel skin come away. You don't scream this time. There's no point. The sound wouldn't rise above the others. You don't know what has happened. You only know that everything is broken, and that somewhere inside your chest, beneath the pain and panic, there's something worse growing. Something slow and shapeless and vast. The realization that no one is coming, that no one could. You are not at war anymore. The war is over for you. Whatever this is, it's something else. Not a battle, not an attack, not even a punishment. It feels more like an ending, not just of a city, not just of a life, of meaning, of sequence, of memory. You want to go home, but you're not sure where that is anymore. You're not sure it exists. The light fades, but the afterimage stays, burned into your retinas, etched into your brain. You close your eyes, but it follows you. You cover your ears, but the silence roars. You try to move, but your body answers in fragments. There is no direction. There is only a way, and even that may no longer be possible. The city is burning, and you're still inside it. You don't know how you finally managed to get to your feet. The world around you is flattened and twisted, bent into angles that shouldn't exist. Where buildings once stood, there are skeletons of steel and ash, slumped inward like they're trying to hide from what happened. Fires bloom without warning, on wood, on cloth, on people. The heat is not just in the air now, it's in the ground, in your teeth, under your fingernails. Everything that hasn't collapsed is smouldering, and the things that have are worse. The first people you see don't look like people at all. They move slowly, without urgency, without direction, like sleepwalkers in a dream gone wrong. A man walks past you barefoot, each step leaving behind part of the sole of his foot. He doesn't seem to notice. A child moves beside him, half her face swollen and bleeding, holding her arm at an unnatural angle. Neither speaks. No one speaks. There's only the crackle of flames and the distant groan of something vast and wounded. You search faces as you stumble forward, hoping to see your mother's ribboned hair, your father's crooked walk. You don't find them. You don't find anyone you recognize. Just bodies, burned beyond names. A shape on the ground might be your mother, or it might not. You don't stop to check. There's no time, and too much time. Later you'll remember the sound of your father's cane hitting the floor that morning and wonder if it's still somewhere beneath the ash. Someone runs past you, skin hanging from their arms like wet rags. A woman stumbles forward, carrying something in both hands. You think at first it's a bundle of cloth or maybe a doll. Then you see the fingers. It's an arm, severed at the shoulder, limp and charred at the edges. She cradles it like it might reattach itself if she just holds on long enough. Behind her, a boy drags what's left of his mother by the sleeve of her kimono. He is maybe 10. She is not moving. He doesn't look up. He just pulls. You try to speak to someone, anyone, but your throat closes the moment you open your mouth. The smoke is too thick. The air tastes like metal and salt, and something rotten. Your voice catches in your chest and turns to a cough that racks your whole body. When it passes, you're on your knees, staring at the rubble-strewn street, hands pressed against ground that feels like it's still pulsing with heat. A nearby building gives way with a long, slow groan, as if it regrets holding itself together for this long. The second floor folds into the first. The roof slides down like a broken jaw. Dust rises, then mixes with the smoke already hanging in the sky. Everything is grey now, grey and red and glowing at the edges. The sun is still overhead, but it's changed, dimmer, tinted with rust. It shines through the haze like an afterthought, weak and ashamed. You stand eventually, because lying down feels too close to giving up. Your legs shake, but they hold. You begin to move, not towards safety. You don't know where that is, but away from the worst of the fire. You think maybe the river. Everyone seems to be heading in that direction. At least there might be water. The heat intensifies with every step. Pieces of roof and ironwork lie twisted in the road. You climb over them without looking down. You don't want to see what's underneath. A woman nearby is screaming, but not like someone in pain. It's the scream of someone calling for someone else. A name maybe, a child's name. She shouts it again and again, stumbling through the debris, tripping on beams, tearing at collapsed doorways. No one answers. Her voice finally gives out, but she doesn't stop moving. She keeps calling anyway, her mouth open, her throat dry, her body obeying a command that no longer makes sense. You see more of them now, burned, blind, staggering, moving like ghosts through a city that no longer recognizes them. One man walks in circles, over and over again, his arms raised as if still holding the briefcase he no longer has. Another woman sits in the middle of the street, hair singed off, rocking back and forth beside what must have once been a baby. You don't look closely. The river is still somewhere ahead, but the way is blocked. A fallen tram car lies across the road, windows shattered, its wheels twisted off the rails. Inside are bodies, burned, pressed against the metal. You avert your eyes, but it's too late. The image has already been taken in, stored somewhere deep and permanent. It will not leave you. Overhead, wires swing from shattered poles, snapping in the heat, arcing against the walls that still stand. You hear glass crack and then fall in slow sheets, raining down onto the street like deadly confetti. No one flinches. The sounds no longer mean danger, they just mean next. The city does not feel like a place anymore. It feels like an after-image, something caught between existing and not, between matter and memory. What hasn't burned is broken. What isn't broken is bleeding. And yet through it all, people keep moving, one foot in front of the other. Not toward help, but simply away from where they were. The sun is still overhead, red and low like it's forgotten which direction it's supposed to travel. It hangs in the sky, not like a source of light, but like a wound. You stop and look up at it, dizzy with heat and smoke and exhaustion. Somewhere beneath the ache in your head, the thought comes. This is what dying looks like. Not in a flash, not in an instant, but in hours, in burning, in silence. And still you walk. Your throat is a wound, not sore, scorched. Every breath scrapes through it like sandpaper. The heat hasn't broken. If anything, it's getting worse. There is no shade, no wind, no relief. The air sticks to you like gauze. You can't remember when you last swallowed without pain. Your lips are cracked open at the corners, your tongue too swollen to lie flat. Your mouth tastes like ash and iron, and something else you can't quite name. You try not to think about it. Your skin is coming loose in places, around your arms, your back, the sides of your neck, where the sun and fire touched first. The flesh underneath is wet and red, glistening with sweat and something darker. When you lift your arm, you see fabric stuck to the burns, fused into the meat of you, like it belongs there. You don't pull, you don't scream. You've already passed the point where noise feels useful. The ash falls slowly, steadily. It drifts down from the sky like snow in a storybook, soft and silent. But it is not cold. It lands on your skin and clings to the weeping patches. It sticks in your eyelashes, your nose, the corners of your eyes. It smells faintly sweet at times, and other times, like nothing at all. You don't want to think about where it came from. You know. You just don't let the knowing form into words. Everyone is moving in the same direction now. No one tells you where to go, but the answer is obvious. You follow the others down the ruined streets, around collapsed beams and past smoking craters, toward the river. Every step grinds grit into your souls. The city blurs around you, violet, twitching, wrong, but you keep walking because you have to. Not to live exactly, just to drink. Just to cool the burn that keeps building in your lungs, and your skin, and your thoughts. You see the water before you hear it. It reflects the sickly red of the sky, rippling faintly under a breeze that doesn't seem to reach the shore. The banks are crowded with bodies. Some living, some not, some you can't tell. People crouch at the edge and splash water over their faces, their arms, their clothes. A few crawl forward until their heads are submerged, then stop moving entirely. One man walks calmly into the current, fully dressed, and keeps walking until the water closes over him. You kneel at the edge, joining the line of scorched silhouettes. Your hands shake as you reach forward. The river is filthy, thick with debris and something darker, floating cloth, charred wood. Things you don't examine too closely. But it is wet. It is cold. That's all that matters. You scoop water into your mouth and feel it sting as it hits your throat. You drink again and again, not caring how it tastes, only that it's real. The second swallow tastes like blood. Not yours, not entirely. You spit it out and take another, hoping the next will be better. It isn't. You try not to gag. Around you, others drink as desperately. Some dip rags into the water and wring them over burns. Some scoop it into broken pots or dented helmets, ferrying it back to someone they left behind. One boy just lies there, cheek pressed to the wet stones, whispering a single word over and over again. Mizu. Water. His voice is hoarse. He never opens his eyes. Further downstream, the bodies are starting to collect. Some float. Others are caught in reeds or wedged against fallen branches. You avert your eyes and look back to the shore, where a woman pours water onto her child's face. The child doesn't react. She pours more, then more. Her hands don't stop moving, even when her shoulders begin to shake. Her face is blank. You sit beside her without speaking. There is nothing to say. The river has taken more than it's given, but it's all anyone has left. You try to tell yourself that the water helps, that it cools the fever building in your blood, but you feel no better. The pain remains. The thirst lingers. Your hands still tremble, and your skin still weeps through its wounds. The river is not a cure. It is a pause. A foreign word floats through your mind. Radiation. You've heard it before, on the radio, maybe, or in a science lesson long ago, but it has no shape in your thoughts, no weight. You don't think about it now. You think about thirst, about how long the sun will stay up, about whether the fires behind you will reach the water. You think about lying down. You think about never getting up again. Someone passes behind you and collapses without a sound. You don't look. The crowd at the river has stopped reacting to the new arrivals. Everyone is either drinking or dying or both. The two have started to look the same. You rest your forehead against your knees and close your eyes. Not to sleep, just to shut it all out for a moment. The water laps gently at the shore, indifferent to the dead, the dying, the burned. You listen to it and imagine it's the sound of rain or of wind in trees, something clean, something far away. But the smell breaks the illusion, blood and smoke and scorched earth. You open your eyes again. The sky hasn't changed. The ash still falls. You are still here. The first time you see one, you don't realise what it is. It looks like a smudge, just a vague outline on the side of a building, pale against the dark stone. But then you notice the shape. Arms, legs, a head, slightly turned as if caught mid-step, and suddenly you understand. You understand exactly what it is, and your stomach turns before your thoughts can catch up. They call them shadows, but they're not cast by light. They're absence, imprints, people burned into the surfaces they were closest to in the instant everything changed. The bomb didn't just destroy the bodies, it erased them, vaporized them in a fraction of a second, leaving only a memory scorched into the wall behind. You look at the shape and feel your mouth go dry again, though it never really stopped being dry. The outline is so precise you can see the folds of a sleeve, the tilt of a shoulder. There is no face, just the shape where a life used to be. You walk further and you begin to see them everywhere, on stone steps, on bridges, on benches and sidewalks. Figures frozen forever in the last moment of their lives. Some were sitting, some were walking. One looks like they were reaching for something. Maybe a bag, maybe a hand. There is no way to know. You do not need to imagine what they felt. You already know. The worst are the pairs. A couple etched into a wall, hands almost touching, preserved in the act of love or fear or simply walking side by side. They are not embracing. They are not shielding one another. They are just there together, and then not. You stop in front of them longer than you mean to. You wonder if they even knew what was happening, if they had time to turn, if they saw the light, if they heard the sound. You tell yourself they didn't, that it was quick, that it was clean. You tell yourself lies because the truth is too big to fit into language. You see a small shadow crouched on a doorstep, knees pulled to chest, a child. The shape is so small it barely looks human. You don't stare at it long. You keep walking, even though each step brings more outlines, more reminders. The city has become a gallery of absence. Every wall a memorial, every surface a warning. You start to understand why no one is talking anymore. The silence makes more sense than words ever could. At a street corner you find a section of wall where the stone has blackened, warped by the heat. In the warped surface you catch your reflection. For a moment you don't recognize it. The shape in the wall is hunched, half covered in ash, face streaked with soot and blood. The hair is singed short and the eyes, your eyes, look hollowed out, like something essential has slipped out without permission. You lean in closer, not out of vanity or fear, but disbelief. You have become something else. Your clothes are still hanging in tatters, burned through in places, clinging where the skin has melted beneath. Your skin has turned a mottled patchwork of red and grey, shiny where the burn is deepest, flaking where it has already started to die. Your lips are split. Your cheeks are caked in a residue you can't identify. You blink, and for just a second, you think the reflection blinks back with a delay, a beat too slow, a second version of you lagging behind. You look away. It doesn't help. Not far from you, a group of survivors is gathered in the street, sitting beneath the shade of a crumbled archway. One woman mutters softly to herself, hands folded like in prayer, though she doesn't seem aware she's doing it. Another picks at the skin peeling off her arm with numb focus, as if trying to solve a puzzle. A man lies flat on the ground, staring at the sky, eyes wide and unblinking. You aren't sure if he's alive. None of them speak of the shadows. No one points them out. No one marvels or mourns. The outlines are everywhere now. They've become part of the landscape. There is no reaction left to give. And still, the ash falls. You step over a cracked piece of concrete and see another imprint, clearer than most. Someone standing, arms down, facing forward, directly at the blast. Their feet are planted. Their head is upright. The outline is complete, symmetrical, composed. For some reason, this is the one that unsettles you the most. There's something final about it. Something deliberate. You feel a chill run through you that has nothing to do with the air. You wonder how many more there are. How many more shadows the city will find in the days and weeks ahead. You wonder how long they'll last before the rain washes them away, or the reconstruction buries them in concrete and forgetfulness. You wonder if anyone will photograph them, study them, pretend they mean something. You do not feel like a person anymore. You feel like a shadow still in the process of forming. Your body walks, your eyes see, but something vital has already burned off. You don't know when it happened. Maybe it was back at the river. Maybe in the flash. Maybe in the reflection. You only know that you are not who you were. And you are not alone. You find the school by accident. Or maybe it's the only building still standing tall enough to notice. The walls are cracked, the windows gone, the roof bent like someone stepped on it from above. But it's standing, that's enough. You follow a group of others, silent, ash-covered, limping, through the broken gate and into what used to be a place for learning. Someone has pried open the basement door. A stairwell leads down into a pocket of shadow. You hesitate only a moment before stepping inside. The air changes as you descend. It's cooler, but not in a way that brings comfort. It smells wrong. Moist, thick, sweet with rot and rust. The walls are streaked with old posters, the kind that once encouraged good behaviour, proper hygiene, national pride. They're curling at the edges now, faded by smoke and humidity. You grip the railing as you go down, but it wobbles under your hand, barely attached. The bottom of the stairs is dark. Someone has lit a candle on a crate, but the flame flickers, too weakly to fill the room. There are bodies already there, some sitting, some lying down, some in positions that suggest they started as one and ended as another. No one speaks. The silence here is deeper than outside. Like the stone itself has absorbed the sound of pain and made a decision not to give it back. A man in the corner rocks slightly, back and forth, muttering in a voice too low to understand. Next to him, a woman lies wrapped in a singed curtain, face turned to the wall. You can't tell if she's asleep or dead. You make your way to an empty patch of floor near the far wall. The concrete is sticky. You don't ask with what. You sit slowly, careful of your burns, careful of your breath. The air is hot and wet, and every inhale feels like it carries something you'll never get out again. Your back finds the wall. Your legs go numb beneath you. It doesn't matter. You're not going anywhere. A child lies nearby, curled in a ball, too quiet. At some point, his breathing slows. Then it stops. No one moves. No one cries. His mother, or maybe it was his sister, just watches him without blinking. After a while, she closes his eyes. Not gently, just efficiently. Then she turns away and stares at the opposite wall. You lose sense of time in the shelter. The flickering candle dims, then brightens, then dims again, as if hours are passing in waves. You hear someone vomiting into a bucket. You hear someone else moaning in a long, low rhythm like a chant. No one has water, no one has food. The people who went to look for help haven't come back. You assume they're dead. You assume a lot of things now. The stench builds slowly, sweat, blood, urine, the thick chemical stink of burns. Someone soiled themselves and couldn't move. Another is bleeding from somewhere deep, the sound of it wet and steady. You breathe through your mouth, but it doesn't help. You press your sleeve to your face, but the cloth is already filthy. Eventually, your body stops reacting. It's not that the smell lessens, it's that your brain gives up. The candle goes out. Someone relights it with shaking hands, but the flame is smaller this time. The light reveals what darkness had almost hidden. Eyes wide and empty, skin slick with fluid, wounds too large for the body to explain. There is a man with no nose, a woman with no hair, her scalp raw and exposed. They are alive technically. You start to realize that alive is no longer a useful word. You hear the building creak above you. Somewhere, something heavy shifts. Dust falls from the ceiling, a slow drizzle. No one looks up. The fear has changed. It isn't sharp anymore. It's dull, heavy, slow-moving, like a fog that wraps around your mind and settles in. You stop expecting help. You stop expecting change. You stop expecting anything. At some point, you close your eyes, not to sleep, just to rest the muscles that hold them open. But images still move behind your lids, walls smeared with silhouettes, rivers full of the dead. Your own face in the reflection of melted glass. You open them again, but the shelter looks no better. The dark has a weight to it now, and the silence feels thicker than the smoke above ground. A man begins muttering about his wife. He repeats her name, again and again, like an incantation, as if he can summon her by sound alone. No one tells him to stop. Eventually, he goes quiet, or his voice breaks. Either way, the name stops coming. The air doesn't notice. You count the breaths of the people near you, just to have something to measure. 2 slow breaths, then a pause, then 3 faster ones, then silence. You wait, then a cough, still alive, for now. Your wounds ache, not sharply, but deeply, like the pain is living under your skin and feeding slowly. You think of the outside and wonder if the fires have moved on, if the river is still flowing, if anything beyond this room is still functioning like it should. You don't expect answers. You're not sure you'd believe them. No one comes, no one leaves. You are underground in a city of ash. There is no plan, no order, no next step. There is only the quiet, the smell, and the waiting. You're not sure how many days pass. 2, maybe 3, maybe more. Time has started to stretch and blur, like something left too long in the sun. The candle burns down and is replaced by a smaller one, then another, until even the light feels too fragile to count on. You measure the hours by breaths or footsteps, or the rhythm of coughing that echoes through the basement walls. Sometimes you try to sleep, but the air is too warm, the floor too hard, and your body too restless in its pain. Mostly you sit. Mostly you think. Someone says there's help coming. A woman with a raw, swollen voice claims she saw trucks headed into the city. Another swears a doctor was spotted near the bridge. You want to believe them. You don't. There are no sirens, no uniforms, no stretchers or crates of medicine, no water. Nothing comes through the streets except the wind and the smell of whatever's still burning. Every now and then, someone gets up and limps back into the ruined daylight to look. Most don't return. The ones who do come back alone, eyes dull, mouths dry, saying nothing at all. You begin to understand something that no one says aloud. The army isn't coming. The government isn't coming. The hospitals are gone. The systems that were meant to hold you, civilization, order, help, died in the same flash that took the buildings and the shadows and the river. The city is its own country now. A nation of the dying. No borders, no leaders. Just the burned and the broken, waiting together for something that won't arrive. At some point the sky changes. The light dims in a way that isn't natural. The colour shifts to something muddy and strange, like bruised fruit. You step outside with a few others, not because you expect rescue, but because the air down there has started to curdle. The sky above is thick with something dark and slow-moving. It's not a storm. It's not smoke exactly. It's a kind of soot, drifting down in oily flakes that land on your skin and stick. You hold out your hand and catch one. It feels wet at first, then dry. Your fingertips come away stained black. A man beside you calls it black rain. You've never seen anything like it. No one has. It falls gently, almost kindly, coating the streets, the rubble, the clothes of the people, still wandering without destination. You hold your sleeve over your mouth and squint up at the clouds. There is no thunder, no lightning, just the quiet, relentless descent of ash disguised as weather. You see a woman try to wash her arms in a bucket. scrubbing at the stains the rain has left. The water turns slick and dark. Her skin comes away red. You try not to let it touch your wounds. It's impossible. Your bandages, if you can still call them that, are soaked through within the hour. You tell yourself it's just soot and dust, but your skin starts to sting. Your eyes burn. Later, when the rain has stopped, you see a boy wiping at his face with a cloth, and when he pulls it away, his eyebrows come off with it. The first time you notice your hair falling out, it's small, a few strands on your pillow, then a handful when you run your fingers through it. You stare at the clump in your palm for a long time, not quite surprised but still caught off guard by the confirmation that something deeper is happening. You look at the others and wonder if they see it too, the way your scalp is starting to show, the way your skin is changing colour, texture. A man to your left has started bleeding from his gums. He doesn't seem to notice. Inside the shelter, the conversations fade, even the rumours stop. You sit beside a woman who hasn't spoken in over a day. She stares at a crack in the wall and doesn't blink for minutes at a time. You try to say something, just to hear a voice, but the words feel heavy, like your tongue doesn't know how to move them anymore. You drink water when it's offered, though it tastes wrong. Everything tastes wrong. Like metal, like mould, like something already dead. The pain inside you is different now. It's no longer just from the burns or the hunger. It's something in your bones, in the lining of your stomach, in the roots of your teeth. You shift your weight and feel a deep ache spread through your joints. Dull but insistent. You know, without needing to be told that this isn't an infection or dehydration. It's something else. Something inside you that wasn't there before the light came. People stopped trying to explain it. The priests are gone. The doctors are gone. The language of reason doesn't work anymore. Even fear has changed. It's quieter now. Number, less urgent. Not the fear of dying, but the fear of disappearing slowly, of watching yourself rot from the inside, day by day, without anyone able to name it, let alone stop it. Outside, the sky is still wrong. It hasn't returned to blue. The air tastes like metal and old paper. You sit near the doorway and listen to the silence of the street. No engines, no footsteps, no shouts. Just the soft crackle of distant fires and the occasional whisper of ash falling from a roof, too tired to hold it. You keep waiting for someone in a clean uniform to walk around the corner. They don't. You close your eyes and try to remember what the city used to sound like. You can't. The bleeding starts in your mouth. At first you think it's just a cracked lip or a sore from the smoke, but then the taste thickens, metallic and foul, and you feel it running from your gums, slow and steady. It stains your teeth, clings to your tongue. You wipe your mouth, and the cloth comes away streaked with red. You rinse it with the last of your water, but the bleeding doesn't stop. Not fully. It never really does. Your skin has begun to change. Not the burns, you're used to those now, but something deeper. Patches turn dark, not from dirt or bruising, but from something under the surface, something your body seems to be trying to force upward. They spread across your arms, your legs, your chest, growing like shadows beneath the skin. It doesn't hurt at first, it just looks wrong. Eventually, they ache when you move, then even when you don't. Other people are changing too, you're not the only one bleeding. A woman 2 spots down from you has dark spots on her neck, her face swollen and flushed. She vomits into a bucket, and what comes out is not food or bile, but thick, dark blood. The sound of it hitting the floor makes your stomach turn. Someone mutters something about spoiled food or poisoned water. But you know that's not it. There's no food to spoil. The water was already tainted before you drank it. This is something else entirely. There are no mirrors left, but you've stopped needing them. You can feel what you've become. Your hands tremble constantly now, too weak to hold anything for long. Your joints ache like you've aged decades overnight. Your scalp itches, and every time you scratch it, more hair falls away in brittle clumps. You watch it collect around your bedding like shed feathers. At some point, You stop brushing it away. You used to keep track of your wounds, count the blisters, monitor which ones were healing and which had started to rot. Now you don't bother. Your whole body is a catalogue of damage. The skin peels in sheets. The sores on your legs weep without stopping. You catch glimpses of your own reflection in broken glass or blackened water and feel nothing. You're a stranger even to yourself. Some people sleep and don't wake up. You can't tell when it happens. They just go quiet and then never move again. Sometimes someone will try to shake them, or call their name, or nudge them with a foot, but after a few tries they stop. The bodies aren't moved anymore. There's no space and no strength. They just become part of the shelter. Silent, unmoving markers of how far things have fallen. You sleep beside the dead now, because there is no choice. The children are the quietest. You don't hear them crying anymore. The ones that are still alive lie still, eyes sunken and dull, hands limp. Their parents stop trying to feed them, mostly because there's nothing to feed them with. Occasionally, someone mutters a lullaby under their breath, the tune barely audible above the shallow breathing and soft groans that fill the room. But even that stops, eventually. Words are useless now, nothing answers them. You've heard the word radiation before, on the radio, in pamphlets dropped from planes. It's foreign, scientific, distant, a concept, not a presence. It means nothing to you now. You have no Geiger counter, no protective suit, no lead walls, just a body slowly dissolving under the weight of something invisible. Whether it's radiation or curse or punishment doesn't matter. Whatever name you give it, the sickness doesn't care. It speaks no language, follows no rules, obeys no God. A man near the entrance begins to lose his mind. He claws at his arms, tearing open his own skin, screaming that insects are inside him. No one restrains him. No one tries. His voice rises, breaks, then fades into sobbing. Later, when you glance over, he is still. His arms are red to the elbow. His eyes are open. The insects, if they ever existed, are gone. You think sometimes that you've already died, that this is something else, some limbo made of fire and ash and the sound of human bodies failing. But you still feel pain. Your stomach cramps with hunger. Your teeth throb. Your spine burns with each shift of your weight. Death, you think, would be quieter. This is something worse. This is waiting. The sickness spreads without pattern. Some people look almost fine until they collapse mid-step. Others waste away slowly, each day peeling off another layer. You don't know which path is yours. You only know that each morning you wake up is less of a relief and more of a surprise. You check your hands first, then your feet, then your face, like inspecting the wreckage of a house that keeps collapsing, inch by inch. There is no medicine, no explanation, no answers, no rules, only the transformation, slow, unstoppable, absolute. You remember how it felt to be whole, and it seems almost comical now, like a dream someone else told you. You were once healthy, strong, capable. That person is gone, and there is no returning to them. The shelter grows quieter by the hour. Not peaceful, just diminished. The moaning thins, the movement slows, the light grows faint, even when the sun is out. You lie on your side and listen to your own breath, shallow and uneven. You feel your ribs with your hand. You feel your skin beneath it, hot and brittle and wrong. You close your eyes. You do not expect to open them again. They begin piling the bodies outside the shelter once the air inside becomes too thick to bear. At first, there's some attempt at reverence, wrapping the dead in cloth, saying a name, placing them carefully near the edge of the stairs. But the numbers grow faster than the rituals. Soon, the dead are dragged out by the arms or legs, sometimes two at a time, their limbs bumping against the steps, like sacks of grain. It's not disrespect, it's exhaustion. There's only so much energy left for grief. When the pile becomes too large and the smell begins to seep back inside, someone suggests fire. No one argues. The ground is too hard for graves, the water too filthy for floating, the air too full of flies. Fire becomes the only option. A few people gather what's left of broken furniture, dry cloth, crates from a nearby ruin. A woman volunteers matches. Someone else finds a bent tin of kerosene. No ceremony, just necessity. The first time you see it happen, you watch from the doorway. The flames start small and catch fast. The smoke rises in thick grey ropes, curling around the collapsed frame of the school. The bodies blacken slowly at first, then all at once, curling inward, folding into themselves like something ashamed. The smell hits hard, sweet and oily, and horribly familiar. It reminds you of cooking meat over charcoal, of market stalls with pork skewers, of something normal twisted into something you'll never eat again. You gag. Then you stop gagging. Your body adjusts because it has to. You don't flinch anymore. Not when a head splits open from heat. Not when bones pop and crack like damp wood in a stove. Not when someone adds a body to the fire and you recognize the shape of their shoes. You look, you note, you turn away. It becomes a rhythm, part of the day. Light, feed the fire, sit down, wait. You try to write names for a while. You find a shard of brick and scratch initials into the wall near the shelter stairs. You think if you can keep track of just a few, then it won't all disappear. But there's no way to be sure you're spelling anything right. Some of the dead didn't have names you knew. Others had names you've already started to forget. A few had faces you can't quite picture anymore, even though you saw them yesterday. You press harder into the stone, dragging the brick until it breaks. After that, you stop trying. Someone else tries to mark the burned bodies with stones, a line of rocks to indicate a person, but the wind scatters them, and the rain washes them away. The fire turns everyone into ash too quickly. It doesn't leave room for remembering. Eventually, no one makes the effort anymore. The bodies are burned in groups now. 5, 10, more if the fuel allows. One pyre looks like the next. The faces are gone before anyone has a chance to say goodbye. You watch a man carry his wife to the fire and pause before placing her down. He looks at her for a long time, his eyes not moving, his mouth slightly open, like he's trying to say something but can't find the words. Then he lowers her gently onto the wood and steps back. The flames rise, he doesn't move again for a while. When he does, it's slowly, like the air is too heavy to push through. He doesn't look back. The fire becomes background, a constant flicker at the edge of vision. The smell settles into your hair, your clothes, your skin. It's not just the dead anymore, it's the living too. You can smell your own body turning, your own sweat growing sour and chemical. You know what you'll smell like when it's your turn. You try not to think about it, but you do. No one talks about what happens to the ashes. The wind carries them away. They mix with the black rain. They settle on the walls of the shelter, the leaves of the few surviving trees, the surfaces of puddles that no longer evaporate. You see them swirling in the water you drink. You see them lining your fingernails when you wipe your face. You tell yourself, it's just dirt. You tell yourself a lot of things. Once you try to remember everyone who was in the shelter the first day. You start counting them on your fingers. There was the woman with the burned arm, the boy with the swollen eyes, the older man who hummed when he breathed. You get to 7, maybe 8, then realise you're missing faces. You try again. You forget someone. You try again. You realise you're not even sure how many people are still alive now. The lines between them blur. The ones who are here are gone. The ones who are still here are barely different. Eventually, you stop remembering on purpose. It hurts less that way. You stop asking names. You stop giving your own. Someone asks you who you are, and for a second, you pause before answering. Not because you've forgotten, but because it no longer feels like it matters. No one remembers you either. You could vanish in your sleep, and no one would call out. The others might notice, or they might not. They might step over your body on the way to the door, assuming you're just resting. By the time anyone's sure, it'll be too late. You'll be in the fire with the others, smoke rising in a nameless column to join the ash already hanging in the air, and the world will go on exactly as it has. Eventually someone comes, not the army, not help in the way you once imagined. Just a truck with a red cross painted crooked on the side, and a few men in masks who don't look anyone in the eye. They say little, work quickly. Bodies are counted, living and dead. The dead are burned where they lie. The living, what's left of them, are loaded into the truck bed like cargo. You are one of them. Too weak to resist, too stunned to care. You leave the shelter behind without ceremony, without goodbyes. It is not rescue, it is removal. You're taken to a holding area outside the city, near a temple, with cracked tiles and fire-scarred trees. The injured lie in rows on mats. A nurse brings water, then leaves. A clipboard appears beside your head. Your name is written down. You become a number, a case, a body that didn't die fast enough. No one asks what you saw. No one explains what happened. You lie under a makeshift tent for days, weeks maybe, as your wounds stiffen and your skin flakes and your breath grows shallow, then easier, then shallow again. One day, someone tells you the war is over. Another tells you that you survived. And somehow both feel like a mistake. They arrive wearing clean clothes and strange accents. Foreign doctors, not from the village, not even from Japan. Their uniforms are unwrinkled, their hands smooth, their faces unscarred by heat or hunger. They don't look like people who've seen what you've seen. They speak through translators when they must, but mostly they speak to each other. They don't flinch when they look at you. They don't look away either. They just watch you the way a scientist watches a chemical reaction. Curious, distant, safe behind the glass. You're told they've come to help. That's the word used, help. But they don't bring medicine, and they don't dress your wounds. What they bring is paper. Clipboards, notebooks, small printed forms with tiny checkboxes. One of them has a camera. Another carries a metal box full of needles and swabs. You don't ask what any of it is for. No one asks anymore. You sit when you're told. You lift your arm. You open your mouth. You let them measure what's left of you. They ask what it felt like. Not the weeks of starvation or infection or the weight of loss, but that moment, the flash, the blast, the thing they've named detonation. You don't know how to explain it. There isn't a word for it in your language, and there isn't a word for it in theirs. You say hot, and they nod. One of them writes down temperature spike in a neat looping English letters. Another scribbles something about soft tissue trauma while pointing at the burns on your chest. You feel like a diagram. Your body is photographed from multiple angles. They don't ask permission. They hold a ruler up beside your face. They count the scars. They examine the pattern of your hair loss, the colour of your tongue, the shape of your fingernails. You're told to walk in a straight line. You're told to lie down and breathe deeply. They tap on your ribs and write down how many times you cough. You lose track of the days they do this. It becomes part of your new routine. Wake up, wait, be measured. One day they bring a mirror and ask you to look into it. You hesitate. You've been avoiding your reflection for weeks, maybe months, but you obey. The image that stares back is worse than you remembered. Your face is asymmetrical. Your skin is leathery in places and paper-thin in others. Your eyes look like they belong to someone older, someone hollowed out. The doctor points to your jaw and asks how much pain you feel on a scale from 1 to 10. You don't answer. You don't remember how numbers work anymore. You are not treated. Not really. A few pills are handed out to those with fevers. A bandage here and there, loosely applied, already stained. Sometimes you get a vitamin tablet, though they don't tell you what kind. They don't ask what you need. They ask how long you've been bleeding. They ask when your symptoms began. They ask if you experience disorientation, nausea, vision loss, vomiting. You say yes and they write it down. You say nothing and they write something else. You are a case file now, a data point, a study in motion. They refer to you in the third person. even while you're in the room. Subject exhibits dermal degradation, possible secondary infection, psychological withdrawal, note refusal to make eye contact. You want to scream that you're still in the room, that you're not deaf, not invisible, but you don't scream. You just sit there while they speak around you. The interpreter is kind sometimes. She gives you an extra biscuit when no one's looking. She looks away when the doctors poke too hard or ask questions that sound more like accusations. But even she stops talking to you after a while. There are too many of you, and the days are too long. You watch her face change the same way yours did. Tired, blank, resigned. The doctors move on eventually. One by one, they leave. Back to their universities, their labs, their countries. They take boxes of notes and reels of film and containers of your blood. You are not told what they plan to do with any of it. You are not told if it helped. You are not told if it mattered. No one comes to say goodbye. No one sends updates. You're left with a medical tag and a short summary of your condition, written in neat characters you can barely read. The summary says you're stable, that your symptoms are non-acute, that further care will be evaluated as needed. You don't know what that means. You don't ask. You fold the paper and put it away somewhere. Later, you lose it. It doesn't matter. The only thing they leave behind is the word radiation. It echoes through the remaining shelters, through the mouths of survivors, through the pages of newsprint that begin to circulate again. It explains everything and nothing. Radiation burned you, sickened you, broke your cells apart. But it doesn't stop. It lingers. It lives in the dust, in your hair, in the blood you still taste at the back of your throat. You are no longer just human. You are contaminated, a warning sign that breathes. You are not a patient. You are not a citizen. You are not even, in their eyes, quite a person. You are a specimen, a document, a before and after photograph stapled to a research grant. They came to study your death. They just happened to find you alive. Eventually, they stop checking. They send you home, or what's left of it. No goodbye, no next steps, just a document with your name and a diagnosis that no one knows how to treat. You survive. That's what they call it anyway. Survival, as if crawling through fire and ash with your skin sloughing off your body, qualifies as something noble. As if waking up every day in the same broken shell is something to be proud of. You breathe, you move, you eat when there's food, you drink when there's water. Your body persists, in pieces. That's enough for them to call you lucky. Your face doesn't look like it used to. The left side is twisted, pulled tight by scar tissue that still hasn't stopped aching. The burns healed wrong, in thick ridges that feel like rope beneath your skin. One eye doesn't open fully anymore. Your mouth pulls sideways when you speak. Not that you do often. It hurts to be seen, but it hurts more to be avoided. People glance at you and then away, as if you might be contagious, as if looking too long might curse them too. Your hands barely work the way they used to. The fingers are stiff, clumsy, curled slightly inward, like they're bracing for another shock. You try to write, but the pen slips. You try to carry a bowl, and it shatters on the floor. Eventually, you learn not to try. You learn to sit still, to take up less space, to speak only when spoken to, and even then, softly. The world around you moves on, and you move through it like a ghost, seen but never touched. They call you Hibakusha now, bomb-affected person. You don't remember when the words started being used. You just know that once it stuck, it never left. It sounds almost clinical, like a diagnosis, but no doctor can fix it, and no one wants the details. You are a symbol now, a cautionary tale, a warning that walks on two legs and wears a mask when the burns are too much to look at. You return to what's left of your home, though home is a generous word for a place with no roof. No doors, no neighbours. The garden is gone. The well is dry. The walls are scorched. A few pieces of furniture remain, warped and crumbling. You try to clean it up, but your body won't allow it. Every movement sends pain blooming through your back, your chest, your joints. Eventually, you stop trying. You sit among the ruins and pretend you don't notice how quiet everything is. News comes in fragments, leaflets dropped from planes, voices on the radio, soldiers passing through, tight-lipped and strange. They say the war is over. Japan has surrendered. There are rumours of peace treaties, of foreign ships docking, of photographs being taken in Tokyo. The world has decided to celebrate. There are parades in other countries, flags, speeches, fireworks, cheers, but not here. Not in the silence you live in. You are not invited to the party. Someone asks you how it felt. Not in a cruel way, but with a sort of detached curiosity, like a child asking about a thunderstorm. You try to answer, but the words get stuck somewhere between your memory and your throat. You say hot, and they nod, as if that explains it. You say bright, and they write it down. Then they leave. You don't see them again. The children stare at you sometimes. You can't blame them. Your body doesn't follow the rules they've been taught. It doesn't look the way a body should. Their parents pull them away, whispering too loudly about respect, about privacy, about danger. You don't correct them. It's easier to be feared than pitied, and pity, when it comes, is worse. It's always brief, always uncomfortable, always followed by silence. You think about the ones who didn't make it, not with envy exactly, but with a kind of quiet agreement. They don't have to explain themselves. They don't have to watch their names disappear from memory. They don't have to hear the phrase necessary evil spoken by people who will never know what that evil felt like against their skin. They don't have to smile politely when someone calls them lucky. You receive a ration card, a form, a document declaring you officially affected. You don't fill it out right away. It feels strange to put your name beside a disaster, like you're signing up for something you already paid for in blood. Eventually you do it. You queue with the others, all of you burned, bent, broken in different ways. You keep your eyes low. You don't speak. The clerk doesn't look at your face when they hand you the packet. You're grateful for that, though you don't know why. No one calls you a hero. There's no medal, no recognition. You are not the face on a victory poster. You are the reminder everyone wishes they could forget. The war has ended, but you carry its signature written into your skin. You walk through a country trying to clean itself up, rebuild, forget. You are not helpful to that process. You are not part of the narrative they want to tell. You survive, and the world continues, and both facts feel equally hollow. You lie awake some nights and wonder if the bomb ever really stopped. Maybe it's still happening, just slower now, drawn out across months and years, sinking into your bones with every breath. Maybe this is what survival means, enduring the aftermath day after day until even your memories begin to rot. Years pass, not quickly, not cleanly, just steadily, like water wearing down stone. The city is rebuilt, piece by piece, as if nothing ever happened. Streets are cleared, buildings rise again, windows are installed, signs painted, gardens replanted. The rubble is carted away, buried, hidden beneath layers of concrete and industry. Foundations are poured over places where shadows once burned into the ground. The outlines vanish. The fire-blackened walls are knocked down, replaced with glass and steel. Progress, they say. Renewal. But not for you. You live in a house now. A different one. Smaller. Newer. It smells of dry wood and clean plaster. The walls are smooth. Too smooth. Like they've never seen smoke. The ceiling doesn't creak when you shift your weight. The lights work. The floor is level. You're told it's an improvement, a blessing. You nod and say thank you. You always say thank you. You've learned not to speak about it, not just out of politeness, but survival. The war is over. The world has decided what it wants to remember and what it wants to forget. You can feel the line in every conversation. People will let you say you're from Hiroshima. They'll ask if you lost anyone. They'll even look appropriately solemn for a few seconds. But then the moment passes. They clear their throats. They change the subject. And if you push past that moment, if you try to describe what it was like, what it still is like, they shut down. Or worse, they say, it was necessary. You hear that word more than you expect. Necessary. As if the pain had a purpose. As if your body was an acceptable trade. Necessary to end the war. Necessary to save lives. Necessary to teach a lesson. You are not asked how it felt. You are asked to understand, to agree, to forgive. You do not argue. You just nod. You nod a lot these days. It's easier than explaining the things you don't have words for. The way your bones still ache when it rains. The way your teeth never stopped loosening. The way your breath catches in the middle of the night when the silence is too perfect and you expect to hear the scream of the sky splitting open again. You nod because anything else is unwelcome. Because talking doesn't help anymore. The doctors still check on you from time to time. Local ones now. Younger. Some of them weren't alive when the bomb fell. They examine your lungs, your blood, your skin. They speak in low voices with too many syllables. They ask about fatigue, nausea, irregularities. You answer. Sometimes they take samples. Sometimes they recommend something new. You always know when it won't make a difference. Your name appears on a registry. There's a small monthly stipend, a classification. You are officially Hibakusha, officially damaged. The government gives you a card, a folder, a set of printed instructions about what you're eligible for. They do not include a guide for how to live with what you've seen. They do not explain how to carry memory, like a shard under the skin. Irritating, always close to the surface, never quite healing. You see the city flourish. Children run through parks that didn't exist before. Buses roll down roads that used to be filled with screams. Tourists come now sometimes to see the dome that still stands. The Peace Memorial, a building that wasn't quite destroyed, left as a symbol. People photograph it. They look somber for a minute. Then they buy drinks from nearby vending machines and move on. You pass by it, occasionally. You don't stop. You don't need to. You remember what it smelled like when the river turned black. You remember the sound of skin peeling from bone. You remember what a shadow looks like when it no longer belongs to a person. The dome doesn't change that. Nothing changes that. Sometimes someone asks if you still have nightmares. You say no. It's not a lie, you don't dream anymore. Sleep comes in pieces, broken by pain or noise or the simple fact of memory refusing to rest. But when it does come, it's dreamless, empty. You tell yourself that's a mercy. There are reunions occasionally, commemorations, public events, survivors gathered together like artifacts. Speeches are made, paper cranes are folded. The mayor says words about peace and remembrance. You stand in the crowd and feel like you've been placed in a museum exhibit. You smile. You bow. You clap when expected. You don't say much. You've outlived people who are stronger than you, healthier, kinder. You wonder what that means, if it means anything. You no longer believe in reasons. You no longer believe that survival was a reward. It was a fact, that's all. A consequence of where you were standing when the world changed shape. Your body remembers things your mouth has forgotten how to say. You feel it in the way your hand still shakes when someone strikes a match. In the way your legs tense at certain sounds. In the way you flinch when light reflects too brightly off a window pane. There are parts of you that were burned away and never came back. Other parts grew back wrong. You've learned to live around the damage. You don't talk about it. The silence has become its own language. One you speak fluently now. It surrounds you like dust, like ash, like snow that no one bothers to clear. Eventually you do try to tell your story. Not because you want to, not because the silence has grown lighter, but because someone finally asks in a way that feels different. a young man with a tape recorder and a gentle voice. He says the memories matter, that people need to hear them. You don't believe him, but you're tired. And maybe a part of you wants someone else to carry the weight for a while. So you speak. It feels strange, unnatural, like using muscles that forgot how to move. The words come slowly, in pieces, dulled by time and caution. You leave out more than you say. Still, he writes everything down. Later, they print it in a small regional paper. Just a column, tucked between the weather and the classifieds. Your name is misspelled. Your age is wrong. The details are softened, reshaped into something more palatable. The parts you hesitated to say, the children, the shadows, the smell of wet flesh, they're gone. The story is printed like a fable, a lesson, a gentle warning. No one calls after it runs. No one knocks on your door. For a few days, you check the mail, just in case. Then you stop. Tourists come to Hiroshima now. They walk slowly, politely, eyes wide and voices low. They take pictures of the dome, of the memorials, of the folded paper cranes stacked in glass boxes. Some cry, some don't. A few ask questions at the museum. Questions that aren't really questions. How could this have happened? Why didn't they evacuate? Was it true the people disappeared? You know the answers. You say nothing. Sometimes you see yourself reflected in their camera lenses. Not directly, just a flicker. A shape behind the glass. They don't notice you. Or if they do, they think you're part of the exhibit. A survivor maybe. Or just an old man with a limp and eyes that don't blink as often as they should. You pass by them like fog curling at the edge of a photograph. They keep walking. So do you. There are guided tours now. School groups. Buses with foreign lettering. Translations on placards. Diagrams with arrows and shaded circles showing the blast radius. Everything is labelled. Explained. Simplified. They've made it understandable. Or tried to. You walk past a group gathered around a diagram of the hypercenter and hear the guide say, "This is where Ground Zero was. Everything within this radius was destroyed." You pause. You think, I wasn't. No one asks what it was like anymore. They ask what it means. As if the meaning is separate from the pain. As if it can be detached, sterilized, pinned like a butterfly in a glass box. You hear people say, it's important to remember, that we must never forget. And yet, the remembering always feels so clean, so neat. Your memories aren't neat. They never were. Your children don't ask anymore, not because they don't care, but because you taught them not to. You answered questions with silence, and they learned that language. Now they let you sit through anniversaries in peace. They let you light incense in your own way. They bring you tea, help you into your chair, and pretend not to notice when your hands tremble. They do not ask what you see when you close your eyes. Your grandchild is different, young enough to be curious without caution. One afternoon, while you're folding laundry in the sun, they ask about the mark on your back, the patch of thick, discoloured skin you've never quite gotten used to. You freeze just for a moment. Then you say it's nothing. An old burn. A childhood accident. They nod. Not quite convinced, but willing to believe you. They move on to another question. Something about lunch or a game or clouds. You let them. It's easier that way. You keep the article they wrote about you. The one no one read. It's folded in half, tucked into the back of a drawer, beneath old receipts and photographs that have curled at the edges. You don't look at it often, but you don't throw it away either. Some days the drawer won't open smoothly. The wood sticks. You take it as a sign. You watch the city grow around you. You watch the buildings rise higher than they ever did before. You watch lights blink on in windows where there used to be only ruin. You hear laughter in the streets again, the thrum of music, the sound of children chasing each other past the riverbanks, the same river where people once crawled just to die a little slower. You do not begrudge them the joy, but you cannot join it either. The ash is gone, swept up, washed away, built over, but you still feel it when you breathe deeply. You still see it in the corners of rooms, clinging to the backs of your eyelids, settling in the folds of your memory like dust in a quiet house. You do not speak of it. Not anymore. This is what legacy looks like. A paragraph in a pamphlet, a name no one can pronounce, a story that gets smaller each time it's told. You do not fight it. You do not demand more. You walk the rebuilt streets with a slight limp and a steady gaze. And when someone bumps your shoulder and says sorry in a foreign tongue, you smile and nod and say nothing at all. You do not die in fire. That would have made more sense maybe, more symmetry. You came into this new world in flames. It might have felt right to leave the same way. But no, your ending is slower, quieter. It arrives not with screams but with silence. No sirens, no trembling ground. Just a dull ache that worsens over years, then stops. You don't even know which organ gives up first. There are too many to choose from, and no one's really checking anymore. When the coughing started again, it didn't alarm anyone. You'd been coughing for decades. When your skin cracked and bled, you said it was dryness. When your stomach stopped keeping food down, you blamed age. When your hair began to fall in clumps again, you brushed it aside. It had all happened before. You thought maybe it was just happening again, that you'd survive again. But your body knew better. It had carried the weight long enough. There is no final moment of peace, no dramatic last breath, just a slipping. Your breath grows shallow, then softer, then absent. The pain fades and so does everything else. The world does not pause, the clock does not stop ticking. You are there, and then you're not. You die in your sleep, in a small sunless room. The curtains haven't been opened in weeks. There are papers stacked near the window, yellowed and curled. The bed is thin and the blanket threadbare, but you don't feel the cold. Your eyes stay closed, your mouth never opens. Your hands remain still at your sides, palms upward, as if asking for something that never came. The person who finds you is not someone you know well. A city worker maybe, a caretaker from the clinic, someone who was assigned to check in once a week. They knock, call out, step in. They see you, pause, then turn to make a call. They've seen this before. It is not unusual. You are not the first body they've found. You will not be the last. Your remains are handled without ceremony. The city has a process for these things. An unclaimed death, a quiet death, a box ticked on a form. You are cremated within the week. No family steps forward. No friends request to keep the ashes. There are too few left who knew you. Most who might have mourned you died long ago, from wounds they could name or ones that crept in slowly, invisible and permanent. Your ashes are placed in a communal urn, along with others. The container is plain. Steel maybe, labelled only by number. The ashes are set behind a stone wall at the edge of a public cemetery, neatly filed, not forgotten exactly, but not remembered either. There is no plaque with your name, just coordinates, a shelf in a wall, a quiet place for the state to say, it did its duty. No eulogy is given, no photograph displayed. The paperwork is filed, stamped, shelved. In a few years, the space may be reused. In a few decades, even the number that marked you may fade from the records. That's how the system works. That's how memory erodes. And still the world continues. It builds new towers over old ruins. It paves sidewalks over the places where people were turned to ash in an instant. Children walk those streets now. They laugh, play, run toward futures that don't include you. Tourists take photos of the dome, tilt their heads, listen to guides who recite sanitized versions of what happened. The flash is mentioned. The suffering, less so. They nod solemnly. Then they buy souvenirs. Your story is not told at those tours, or if it is a brief sentence in a brochure, a statistic, a data point in a chart. Not a life, not you. You do not appear in the documentaries. Your picture is not archived in a museum. Your name is not read aloud at memorials. You are not missed. The world says, Never again. That is the phrase written on stone, carved into memorials, spoken into microphones once a year. It sounds good, strong, final, but you know better. You've seen the pattern, you've watched it unfold. Another flash in another place, another column of smoke, another city levelled. The faces are different, the slogans are new, but the end is the same. Somewhere children are being taught about your city, about the bomb. They are told it was terrible, unthinkable, necessary. A teacher mentions your country surrendered shortly after, and that peace followed. The lesson moves on. There is a test next week. Somewhere another weapon is being built. Quietly, efficiently, paid for with taxes and approved with signatures. A button is calibrated, a target is named, a contingency is drafted, just in case. You are not alive to see it, but if you were, you would not be surprised. You're gone. Not remembered, not mourned, but not erased either. Because part of you is still in the soil, in the air, in the black glass and warped shadows and quiet corners of rebuilt cities where no one lingers too long. You are not a ghost, you are something quieter, something harder to notice, something easier to forget. That brings us to the end of tonight's story, not with resolution, but with the slow hush that follows unbearable noise. If you're still awake, thank you for bearing witness to a life that was never meant to be remembered, but mattered all the same. History isn't always written in victory. Sometimes it's etched in scars and silence. If you'd like early access to more of these historical bedtime stories, ad-free audio of the episodes, or just want to support the show, you'll find a link to the Patreon in the description. You can also like, subscribe, or leave a comment with other parts of history you'd like to see covered. And if you're listening on a podcast app, a rating or review helps others find these stories. Sleep well.